What's up, everybody? Welcome back to GiantBomb.com's coverage of E3 2017. Show's over, but the show is just getting started around these parts. Oh. I'm joined by a pair of just proper veterans here. We've got John Riccardi from 8.4. How you doing down there?
Good. Thanks for having me back.
Yeah, good to see you. And Ed Boon from Netherrealm. How's it going?
Very good. We're not showing a game.
I was going to say, you've shipped, so it's just hang out and
exactly. Actually, experience E3. Yeah.
And but I guess it's kind of a new experience for E3 this year.
It is. It is. It's a lot of people, a lot of extra people there.
And then so you were on a panel. Like the E3 Coliseum or whatever it is, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. I was. That was very cool. Actually.
How was it? Was it big? I didn't get over to see it. So was it like is it like a throng? Or people like going nuts?
The lines were like around the block for that thing the whole time, basically.
Yeah.
It was very cool. You know, it's the lighting that they have is pretty intense. So they have this lower section, and then they have 80% more people on this other, on the balcony.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But the lights are so I actually didn't even realize they were up there until I said something, and then people were laughing, and it was one of those, there's more people up there like that. So
you say the light is intense. Cool. Were you there before or after the fire? Because one of the lights caught on fire, I guess, during the Spider-Man segment.
Didn't hear. No, it was right after the Crash Bandicoot reunion team.
Yeah.
You know, they had a lot of kind of nostalgia things like that. It was pretty cool.
Yeah. And so you were talking about, I didn't even realize it, but it's this 25th anniversary of Mortal Kombat.
Exactly. I was going to say 1992. I was like, add 25 is 2017.
Yeah.
That's weird.
That's like a pretty crazy milestone.
It is.
Amazing. Did you think in 92, 93, in these first couple games that this would be the thing?
No, not at all. And it's weird. It's such a completely different animal. I was talking about how the first team was 4 guys.
Right.
It was so garage band. So let's get this light. Let's go to Home Depot, buy these lights and stuff like that. Everything was
blue screen. And
now it's union actors and professional actors and camera people and all that stuff. It's just a different world. But we're kind of switching between Mortal Kombat and Injustice. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and John, you're here. I mean, 8.4 doing all kinds of localization. Like big year for some of your stuff. I mean, Nier definitely getting a lot of attention.
Yeah, we had a good run of a couple of games in a row that hit kind of big. Like Nier Automata the response has been great. During the show, people keep coming up to me and saying how much they love the game, and I keep telling them we didn't make the game. We just basically localized. But even so, it's just great to see it move people so much that they're like stopping you in the hallway and be like, "Hey, Nier was amazing." And then we worked on Fire Emblem Echoes, which just came out a couple weeks ago.
Right. And so what does E3 entail for you? Are you just kind of like here hanging out also, or is it like, hey, you're out there looking for business, taking meetings, kind of catching up?
Mostly catching up with people because we're in Tokyo, and so we don't get to see a lot of you guys all the time, and so it's coming out and saying hi. We actually had a big announcement the other day at the pre-stream on the Sony conference. We showed Undertale for PS4 and Vita, which we're actually, I think a lot of people don't realize this, we're actually publishing and developing. So we're doing the coding and everything ourselves. This is the first time we're doing that in America, Japan, and Europe. So that was kind of a big deal. The response to that has been amazing. So that's been really exciting and kind of terrifying.
I mean, also the only Vita game mentioned at any point during Sony's broadcast. Yeah,
we intentionally held the Vita part till the end of the trailer because we knew that people would love that.
We took some bets before the press conference. Vinny and Ben said 1 Vita mention, the rest of us said 0. But
nice.
We also agreed that only the actual press conference counted. So
I see. No good then.
Make it.
Bummer.
Yeah. Oh well.
There was no Vita mentioned in the Sony's one, was there?
No, definitely not.
Not at all.
No, that's maybe PSX, that's where you get like Gio Corsi out there pulling Vitas out of his hockey jersey and, check out all these visual novels, or whatever it is. And, so Injustice 2 is out, seems to be doing quite well.
Yes, actually, so far we're ahead of the last one, as far as things are going and stuff like that. And but it's always fun to kind of jump into the DC Comics arena. You gotta think a little bit differently, and and now we're kind of trying to get into is much like, the kind of serious competition with like, esports and
right.
all those, the EVOs and the CEOs, all those tournaments that they play. And it's fun to, just see people start getting into the game. We had a tournament in Chicago called Combo Breaker. Mm-hmm. It was really well run, but the game was only like, 2 weeks old.
Right.
So everybody, was
everyone's
like,
kind of coming in new.
He's the best character. Now he's the best character. And literally by the hour, everybody was saying who the best character was and,
nice.
and how.
Just tier lists changing after every single match.
Like it's like a living, breathing organism. But that's always fun to see. And then eventually, then things just kind of settle in.
Yeah, people kind of lock in on a handful
who they
of characters.
Think is the best character.
When it comes to developing a game like that, like, do you think about it? Do you have like an internal list of like where you're like, we're pretty sure this guy's going to be top of the tier list, or is it like you're just trying to balance it out, and once it gets out there, people figure things out?
Our QA guys are like insanely good at the game, and they have their opinions. And it's funny, I think they get annoyed with me. I always, every once in a while, I'll send them an email saying, okay, give me your top 10, and then they get philosophical. There's really no such thing as a just give me the top 10. And
who's your S tier? Like, let's do this.
Exactly.
Like, come on.
And I'm always the evangelist of who's the bottom 10. And well, we don't know, and then just give me a list. And then, okay, let's make boost these. 'Cause my biggest thing is I'm more afraid of the I don't care about you characters than this guy's a little too strong and stuff like that.
Sure.
I think that's a tougher thing to do, but it's always fun though. And again, everybody has their theories of characters that are more powerful, but it's fun to watch. It's fun to watch the discussions online and stuff like that and everything. So
it's definitely I mean, that's something that's certainly changed a lot over the years. I mean, you talk about all the tournaments and stuff. It's like people getting together and playing fighting games. That part's not new, but the scale and the discussion that goes on around it.
It was, you still, to this day, you still miss, hanging out with your friends, like, and having discussions while people are playing and throwing the quarters on it and stuff like that. Yeah. That's always fun. But no, it's just a different age. It's, people are online. Everybody's, it's way more of a, you get that, but like at the tournaments, for 3 days, in some city and stuff like that, and we announced Sub-Zero. Well, we showed the gameplay like yesterday, for the first time, so everybody's kind of freaking out.
And then
about
Red Hood is out now.
Yes,
just came out.
Yeah, exactly. He just came out, and
then Sub-Zero's up next. Is that
Sub-Zero, and then Starfire, and then
Striker.
Meat and Cobra and all those guys there.
The important DC character. Hawkman,
right.
Now I know Hawkman is officially deceased in the Injustice canon. For reasons we all know. But
because he wouldn't save Midway.
Well, do you ever think about bringing Hawkman back so you can kill him off again?
Oh no!
I mean,
bring him back. But
alternate histories. The metaverse opens up a lot of possibilities.
Have the option to kill him off again is intriguing, actually.
John, getting around the show floor, it sounds like you maybe saw some video games that not a lot of people got to see. How's it feel? That's the transition. I mean, obviously you came out of the press and
Sure.
And now you are working on a lot of this stuff in a localization capacity. I imagine you were seeing things like way earlier.
Sometimes, yeah. I mean, you get the best of it and the worst of it, right? Because now that I don't have to play everything, I come here and I'm like, oh, it's nice to not play anything. And then I end up not playing like almost anything at the show, which is kind of like, the other way. But at the same time, there were like a couple games on my hit list that I definitely wanted to play. And one of them was Mario, obviously, which you guys have probably talked about to death. But I've had a great time with that. It just feels so good.
Both those Mario games. The Mario and Rabbids like XCOM thing.
Yeah, I was really a little harsh on Rabbids like before it came out because Rabbids, I mean they're Rabbids, but like the game actually looks really good, and I'm actually now interested in playing it for real, and Mario itself too, just like. For as good as it looked, I never expected the funnest part to just be like flicking around. Like I was just like throwing the hat everywhere and doing this and everything. And, like cool. We're gonna have like super strong arms by the time that game is done. Because
finally, because arms is not gonna do it. I'm not gonna play enough of that to get there. But Mario, I could probably really sink into.
Yeah, so it's gonna be a fun fall. But I also got to check out briefly Metroid Return of Samus.
Yeah.
Which I guess is not playable regular. It was like a kind of behind the closed doors thing.
That's like I feel like I went behind closed doors. It's behind behind the closed.
I didn't know it existed until I saw it on a list of games.
Right.
You know,
They had their little 25-minute video. They pushed play on that and then kicked over to a live stream from the booth. And we're packing up. We're here for the press conferences and all this other stuff, and we're packing up, getting ready to head over to the show floor and stuff. And I look up, and there's a 2D Metroid game on the, like a polygonal, but like side-scrolling Metroid. I'm like, what? Hey, what?
But it made a huge impact. Like I saw, it was like one of the most talked about games. It's like a big deal.
Oh, sure. Well, I mean, the Metroid drought has been going on. I realized earlier this year, it's been as long since like we had the last proper Metroid as it was from like the drought of like Super Metroid to Metroid Prime. It's like it's been years, and so every year people are like, "Where's the new Metroid? Where's the new Metroid?" Right. And they showed it, on the trailer, and so it was another one of those super high, and then they're like, oh, and it's developed by, the guys who did Castlevania, and it's like, oh, okay, well, I really liked Lords of Shadow. I didn't like the 3DS game they made, so I was like, okay, temper expectations immediately, let's see. But then they had it on the gameplay segment on Nintendo Direct, and it looked really good. And it's a remake of an old game, right? So for starters, the core game is already, solid. I mean, it was on Game Boy, unfortunately, but that was a really good game.
But that, it was like a good Metroid game that was kind of held back by the tech.
Exactly.
It seems like if someone were to remake that game in some capacity, it might do pretty well.
Right.
In fact, maybe some might say it's already happened, but
perhaps. But yeah, so they had that, and so I really wanted to get my hands on it, and I was disappointed when I got there to find out. But I managed to sneak in between a couple of the interviews because I know some of the guys on the dev team, and I just messed with it for about 10 minutes. But which isn't a lot of time in Metroid because you start off with nothing.
Yeah, it's like, I got the Morph Ball. All right, see you later.
Yeah, but it looks super polished. It felt really nice. The stuff they showed on the stream, how you can sort of like there's like melee counters and stuff.
Right. So like if shots are coming your way, you can kind of like
certain shots you can like sort of knock them up, and then if you like immediately fire afterwards, you'll get like a stronger hit and stuff. So there's a little bit of like technical play there. I don't know how deep that goes, but it was definitely fun in like the beginning. Like I could, knowing how these games are, you could tell maybe it might get tiring after a while, but it also might get really cool. It probably gets a lot more deep. I don't know. Music was amazing. The music was so good. Yeah. And it was polished. It felt smooth. It felt fun. Like I didn't feel at any point like there's any jank going on there. So now my anticipation has kind of gone up a bit. I'm pretty enthusiastic again.
Did they give a date for when it's supposed to come
September.
out?
It's probably done. I mean, it's out in like 3 months.
It's got to be really close.
We heard nothing, and then they announced it here in September.
Well, they had to have both ends of it, right? So they have this Metroid game that is like very close to done, and then they just showed a Metroid Prime 4 logo, and they're just like, that's coming eventually. So they got to meet in the middle somewhere. Yeah, exactly. So. And I guess that's not Retro. That's a different team.
It's Mercury Steam. So those are the guys who did.
The Prime
Metroid
4.
4. Did anybody find out who did it?
I believe like
I haven't.
It was being run by like a franchise producer out of Japan, but I don't know.
Tanabe-san, who did work on the Metroid Prime games, which is good. But then it was like the PR materials just said like the same information twice, and which was basically nothing. So I was hoping it would come out at E3, but apparently it hasn't.
Yeah, I mean, I don't wonder if it's going to end up being like a team inside Nintendo, or if they're going to be like, oh, by the way, it's Armature, or something like that, or.
Those guys work with. Who's the guys who made Luigi's Mansion? Next Level, I think. In Canada, maybe. Like that's the team at NCL at least that seems to work with outside developers a lot. So I wouldn't be surprised if it's outside. But I mean, Retro did a great job. Hopefully, it's oversight by Nintendo, whoever it is. It'll be good. Kind of has to be good. I mean, you can't put a Metroid Prime 4 out and have it not be good. The world would be pretty incensed.
Yeah. No, that seems like it would probably go pretty poorly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Injustice 2, I feel like last time we talked, it was like E3 last year.
Probably right.
Probably, yeah.
Probably close to this physical spot.
We talked a lot about the gear in that game. Back then it seemed like this very risky thing in terms of like, hey, you're going to give people equipable gear in a fighting game that has stats on it. That's
going to mean something,
And that sounds hard to balance.
Yeah, I think in doing interviews about it, that was the first question everybody would say. Well, how would you balance something like that?
This sounds impossible. What is wrong with
And what always surprised me was like, as if we don't have the ability to make it a different mode that
for like
turns it off.
Games or something, shut the stats off.
Because somebody with a level 20 is going to come up to a level 1, and then what do you do? It's they're just. Once we said that though, they were like, oh, okay, yeah, I guess you can do that. There's a tournament version of it, but I was surprised, like we were hoping people were gonna gravitate to it, but the level of which people would like hunting down certain gear. I gotta get all 5 Wonder Woman movie pieces of gear and stuff, and was a great even bigger than we were expecting.
Right.
So that's really cool. And so we're kind of like going, God, we got to do more of that. We have to really play up on people's love of hunting down things.
Mortal Kombat 11, or Scorpion with like weird back things and different masks
and a cape.
And
make him look like Spawn and stuff like that.
Of course. But how long was the gear system kind of rattling around in your minds? Was this something that, like, back on Mortal Kombat X, was there ever like, hey, let's think about gear?
It was brought up in different formats. Some of our designers were pushing for it, literally an MK9.
Wow.
We're asking, and it was called the equipment system back then. Equipment, which sounds like you have a suitcase, you got an umbrella. You get
that would be. I mean, honestly,
like
if you could take someone like a Johnny Cage and just say like, I've unlocked my suitcase.
Exactly.
Scorpion, he's got a spear and a briefcase, and he's off to work. And,
actually, what's funny about like. For some reason, like Tekken, they'll have stuff like an alligator that's biting your butt, and just hanging off there. They were able to, and like, which makes you laugh, but we could never get away with doing something like that. But I'd love to have like kind of comedy stuff like that. But yeah, it's been juggled around, and technology was kind of in our way, and just every game it was like okay, and when you think about MKX was kind of like that. We were okay, let's just do
the
3 versions.
Things,
Yeah,
like
exactly.
3 sets of gear.
Exactly. And so it's kind of like the next progression of that idea of we just want to just keep doing as much customization stuff. So it's like this. I feel like that's my character. That's my. I worked on him and I made him better and stuff like that. And a lot of that stuff, we've seen in like first-person shooters and stuff like that. And it's just that whole mechanic of.
Or even it seemed like a lot of the Japanese fight, like the 3D fighters, like Virtua Fighter has had not stuff with stats on it, obviously, but you talk about Tekken, like they've been doing I don't know, I put a tennis racket back here and now Paul's hair goes 3 times as high. Like all that stuff for a while.
Yeah, but it was like the visual aspect, but we really wanted to have something
like
a
have it
little
be meaningful
and stuff like that.
That's it's worked out really well. Like it's been fun to. Though I don't know if there's a bug or if I'm just a really good guild leader or something. But it felt like every time I boot up the game,
a million drops. I listened to your podcast actually.
So every time I go into the guild menu, it just starts coming. I'm like, all right. But it gets to a point where I need an open all button now.
We're doing that.
Okay, great.
It's funny. I was listening to that on the plane, my last plane ride back from LA. And you're going, and every time I turn it on, I get like, 30 things. Next, I have 130 things. I don't want to open all those things. And I go, yeah, maybe an open all is anything. So yes, we actually have a bunch of our designers call it quality of life updates that we're going to do that's going to address all that stuff. So you can just say, open all
There's
that
stuff. And like a sell all common gear.
Exactly.
That's that type of management stuff for sure.
And it's weird because like that stuff exists in like Diablo and all that stuff like that. So part of me is kind of like how did we not catch that? But
it's a different genre. You probably don't know how people are going to really use the system until it's out there. Right?
Yeah, and we'd rather have that kind of problem than nobody gives a crap.
Right, it's like gearboxes.
So, exactly.
Well, it's nice that you could do something about it too. That's another thing that's different from 25 years ago, where like the best thing you could do is like, what did people say at the arcade or whatever? And now you can get that feedback. You can listen to Jeff on a podcast and then like go home and make some updates. And
you probably could have read posts I put on Usenet, 22 years ago about MK2. When you were changing all the fatalities from one revision to the next.
That was me like refusing to accept the reality of the internet, and kind of
they figured it all out.
Yeah,
well, check this shit.
And just angering people, all over the place. So that was just funny.
I had a pretty good list. It was like pretty good printout of like here's all the fatalities, and then the pizza place upgraded. They got the latest chips.
It was funny. I remember Sonya's fatality from like MK1 was like the last one that nobody knew, and I go, yeah, that's the one that's never going to be discovered, And someone, found it in Chicago. Actually, and I think it was somebody one of our game testers wanted to show off and watch this, and someone was like,
just stared at it.
Exactly, and then like I would read, on the Usenet groups that night, somebody in San Diego or something like that would be like, Yeah, I read it on rec.games that, and I was like, this is not
there.
This is not going to be able to be fought.
Not going to sell any more strategy guides. Issues of EGM in the tank at this point now.
Oh yeah, God.
Yeah, that's. I used to just devour all that stuff. That was right around the cusp, like right around the time that I was kind of starting to get into like the industry side of things. But yeah, it was still like every month EGM had another fighting game on the cover.
Right.
This is probably like before your time.
A little before my time, but I mean, I was the same boat as you. I was reading EGM like religiously back then. And, they were in Chicago too, and I think that helped a bit, especially with Mortal Kombat stuff and everything.
Yeah, when we would test a game, we'd see like the EGM guys checking it out and stuff, which again was something that we weren't used to, of like people are professionally looking at and talking about video games. Like it was just kind of like
term.
That's right. Well, they're getting paid.
They're getting paid.
Yeah,
exactly.
Sure. In the widest sense.
Yeah. That was. But yeah, it was at that time. Fighting games were so big. I remember there was a time it was like, there was alternating between Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat in a lot of the magazines.
And then, once Capcom, I think, started to respond, and they were like, all right, we got all these Rainbow Edition. Okay, here's Champion Edition. Let's start. And they started down that path. Then you had like 1 month, it was Super Street Fighter on the cover, and then that iconic Mortal Kombat 2 cover. It was really interesting times. It seems like, with the way the tournament scene has gone, you kind of have your main stage games and you're kind of not main stage games. It's a little different. It's a little wider now than just the Street Fighter versus Mortal Kombat.
Yeah. There's, Skullgirls and Guilty Gear, Xrd and stuff like that, which are great games, but there's the whole gambit of kind of super high profile stuff and low profile stuff. I'm surprised they don't make Virtua Fighter games anymore. They just kind of just went away.
Yeah. Hopefully Sega's watching. Yeah, I would like to see Virtua Fighter come back in some capacity. I mean, everybody would. It's one of those things where it's just a shame.
Definitely like seeing Tekken 7, because that was always the battle. It was the Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat fight. Then it was the Tekken and Virtua Fighter.
With like Dead or Alive off the side.
Dead or Alive off the side doing its own thing. And seeing Tekken 7 come out, I've really liked Tekken for a long time, and Tekken 7's been great fun. But at the same time, it's definitely got me going like, man, where's the next Virtua Fighter? Like we have to, what is it going to take? Every time I kind of inquire around that. Actually, I feel like anytime you ask Sega about any kind of classic IP back from that era or even before, the answer ends up being this kind of sad mix of, wait, what? Or like, or you dig a little deeper and discover like, well, the people who you would want to make that game are not there to make it anymore.
Right, or the source code was lost in a fire or whatever.
Exactly.
And
it's amazing how many things happen kind of behind the scenes of like the development of games. Like it's funny because we've gone through them, and like we've done games when we're transitioning out of arcades or transitioning from Midway to WB, and there's a lot of factors that affect why a game doesn't continue or why a game was late or didn't do well or something like that. And with Sega, with Virtua Fighter, which was always like a really technically impressive game. It demanded a lot from you as far as what you had to do to for it to just stop. I always think it's hard to think that somebody was just like, we're just done with that.
Right.
Like there had to be something.
It's like some mix of like, well, the last one didn't do the numbers, mixed with like maybe these people left the team.
The lead designer, maybe he's not there anymore. Or something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
There are a couple old franchises in Japan, not necessarily fighting games, but like where like the guy who made it maybe passed away or something, and so like out of respect they just don't bring that game back anymore, that sort of thing. There's just a lot of that sort of respecting the original creators that happens maybe more in Japan than elsewhere, which is totally, it's respectful. It's really like an admirable thing, but at the same time you kind of want to be like, but at the same time they probably would want it for their fans to continue.
To kind of honor that stuff.
I hope we'll see.
If I died.
No more? You want?
They'd never continue more.
Bury the IP with Ed Boon.
It's in your contract.
The next one.
That's just recreate the tombstone with your name on it from MK3 and just
put the real death date.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's
and
deep.
There you go. Man, this got all right. So 25 years of Mortal Kombat.
Yeah.
Are there any plans to kind of? Milestones like that are always weird. Like I feel like whenever I think our 10th year is next year or something like that, and like someone reminded me of that. I know, right? Yeah, it's insane. And
wow, okay.
And someone reminded me of that, and it was like, wait, no, what? This feels like the new thing I'm doing still in a lot of ways.
In my head, I was like, yeah, you guys got your
started
giant
our thing up.
Big hit,
Just, we got it off the ground.
Yeah,
so apparently we've been doing it for a while.
Yeah.
So with Mortal Kombat being 25, like, are there things that you want to do to kind of commemorate that, or things that like WB is kind of thinking like, hey, we could do this cool
there might be stuff. Probably nothing that I'm at liberty to say.
Sure.
but it was. I remember thinking, oh, it would have been cool if MKX would have landed on that.
Yeah.
Landed on that year, but it's not to be, But I think it'd be a shame if nothing, if we did nothing. But I've seen a couple of ideas floated around that could be fun.
Cool. Yeah, I know. Like over the years, it seems like the original kind of trilogy of games comes out in one form or another.
Yeah, but I think that's been kind of done to death by now.
Yeah, for sure. It's been there was that. What was that? I don't remember if we talked about this last year, but there was the code, the hidden code in that, or those arcade versions.
Briefly,
yeah.
It was a code that when we go to arcades, we would we'd have to ask the manager, hey, can you open the thing and look at
the audits,
see how many Ermacs and Kano transformations and all that real stuff. At one point, like I was just kind of like the manager's not busy and stuff like that, and I'd be going to all the different arcades in the Chicago area and didn't have time so I put a code in to let me get into the thing, and I thought nobody's gonna disassemble code, but I didn't think they'd be sitting in the arcade 25 years later, still running. And MAME came out, and people can disassemble code, and somebody did and found it, and then somebody on YouTube put a video on it, and someone told me though that it might be the longest code, or longest secret in a video game, like Easter egg, in history.
I would assume,
like without being discovered, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Because I got the Guinness Book of World Records presented me with a plaque of longest voice, for Scorpion, and
and I just gotta get that second one.
And I was gonna say I want to like bookends and stuff like that, so that would be cool. But there was that code existed in the first 3 Mortal Kombat games, and they found it all.
And then it seems like that there's I want to say it was last year, maybe the year before, but it seems like there's a small group of people that are working on like further balance changes to Ultimate MK3.
Are they really?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe you haven't seen it. But it's like people are like just like making little tweaks, and just like, okay, we took a couple of frames out of this, we added a little bit here, and now they're just burning new sets of ROMs for their cabinets, and
that would be fun.
Running all this stuff.
It's pretty amazing how the community will set their sights on one game and then just like keep it going forever with their own, like it happens with Smash Brothers too, right? They still play the older one, like even now.
Yeah, like, and don't they make up rules too? Like you can't use
items.
And you can't do this and can't do that. That's pretty.
And then
cool.
that got to a point where people started just modifying some of those games as well.
Exactly.
To get what they wanted out of it.
That whole thing is called, the industry term at the time was called an octopus. It was something to do to sometimes they use it for like piracy things, like people would duplicate our circuit boards and make duplicates, and then we'd have like in court they would show is this your game, and then you do that thing and say if you program this game, how did that get in there, something like that. So that was
did you ever have to walk into a courtroom and do the thing?
I did.
Wow.
I did. Yeah. MK1 was pirated to the point of like ridiculousness. Like people would break into the cabinet, leave the money, and take the circuit board and like, that's where the money's at.
Right.
And
now let's make 200 of these and just start building kits.
That was that era. Yeah, because there was a lot of pirated Street Fighters too, right?
There were
a lot of copies of Street Fighter 2 that were like just slightly weird or had like faster characters or some weird play as the bosses.
I remember seeing
whatever.
like a Mortal Kombat 2 that was just like the first fight's Kintaro, or it was like
What?
Or and I would see the cabinets with like these steel, really ugly cages on them, so so they can't break through the particle board to take it. It was that was such a big industry. I don't think people realize just how those things were making $1,000 a week at a hard arcade.
Right.
They would be making $1,000 a week, and if you kept that thing going, that's 10 weeks. You've made $10,000, and so it was a big deal. Yeah.
This might be a dumb question, but why was it called an octopus? Like, what's the?
Because the original games, the term was like you'd have to be an octopus in order to do the button combinations.
Oh, so like
some of them was like hold these three for a second and then do this and that.
I see.
And they would say it was like an octopus.
Nice.
Cool. So John, are there any projects you're on right now that you can talk about, or is it all kind of like hush hush?
We're doing some stuff. I'm actually not. I didn't come prepared to see what I can talk about. I can say that we're. At least I'll say we're helping out on the new Monster Hunter,
cool.
which you guys talked about earlier.
Yeah.
But I don't know what I'm allowed to talk about with that game, so I probably can't say too much. But we didn't work on the last one because we were really busy that year during Generations, and so we're back helping out. I wouldn't say it's like the sort of game where we're like doing everything like we sometimes do, but we're definitely involved and trying to help them make it be the best game it can be. So. That's cool.
That's cool. It seemed like a pretty surprising announcement. I know. It was like just finally here's a proper looking console.
I've wanted that forever. Like personally, I've been wanting to play Monster Hunter on a console again for the longest time, because like my best memories of that were like back when like Tri was on Wii. I mean, I know it was Wii and didn't look that great, but it was so much fun to get online and play with people,
Mm-hmm.
And you could do that on 3DS now, but it's just not the same for me on the tiny screen. So I'm just looking forward to being able to play on the big screen again. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah. Cool.
Ed,
what have you like post Injustice 2? I mean, obviously there's plenty of work to be done with additional characters and all that sort of stuff, and we're entering kind of the season for tournaments and stuff. The road to Evo, we're on it.
Yeah, exactly.
But are you finding any time to kind of play anything else?
It's funny. When the Switch came out, I made like this big effort, to find one, get Zelda and everything like that, and it's literally still on my desk, unopened in the box, because the reality of shipping the game is like, okay, one of these days. So I went through all this hassle to get it, and find the store that had it and all that stuff. So I literally have like a stack of like 5 games, Horizon, and all those games that everybody's been raving about, that I never had a chance to play. I hear Zelda's cool,
quite good.
and
quite good.
and I hear the Switch is a nifty little device. So like I'm gonna be like discovering, in my head it's like this summer is all about opening packages, and seeing what everybody's talking about, and getting into that stuff.
Maybe that'll lead to you wanting to make a Switch game down the line.
Yeah, maybe.
I think about was it Mortal Kombat Armageddon, the Wii game?
Yes. With the
I
fatalities.
still have the video they sent out of you doing fatality motions with the Wii remote and nunchuck.
That's right.
To murder the man, do this. This is like just this amazing set of motions. And I'm just watching this going like, man, this got weird. What a world.
To murder the man.
Maybe it wasn't that direct. It is still a Nintendo.
We should have said that actually. And then it's kind of like I'm really curious. I saw your interview with Phil Spencer, Xbox X, and I don't know if you were the one who said it, that you take instead of saying X-Bone, it's the word Xbox.
It abbreviates to the word Xbox.
I wonder, and I go, that had to be on purpose.
Right.
That had to be on purpose. Like I can't imagine that.
Yeah, like someone must have been like, I'm so tired of hearing the word X-Bone. We're gonna fix this. Here you go. All right. Here it abbreviates to this.
But I tried using it, and I've already started. Now when I say Xbox, then some people are like, you mean the first Xbox? And I'm like, no, the new Xbox.
The thing is, no one's ever talking about the first Xbox, really.
I guess maybe just old people like us. But they did say that they're bringing back, what was it, backwards compatibility?
Games. That got a big applause.
Yeah, it's cool just to see from like a preservation standpoint, because those original Xbox games are very hard to play on anything other than an actual Xbox.
Right.
And stuff like MAME is great for arcade games and stuff like that, but there's no good original Xbox emulator.
I couldn't get anybody, like, say definitively. Was there a what's the word I'm looking for? Did anybody say clearly that are there going to be any games that are just Xbox One X games?
No, their whole pitch is that everything runs on everything.
Okay.
So yeah, the one loophole they left last year. So last year they talked a lot about, or not a lot, but they talked about VR being on the X only.
Right.
And that the base model Xbox One would not be powerful enough to do VR. So that was kind of the loophole, but now they're really...
They didn't even talk about VR this year.
Yeah,
right?
it sounds like when they talk about VR now, they very much talk about it in terms of Windows, and they talk about it in terms of PCs. And when Phil was on, it was his response was like, it's a little weird in a family room. It's a little weird when you're kind of around other people. That they weren't really ready to commit to that stuff. So it seems like it is powerful enough to do it, but I just don't know.
So then the Iron Man game, is that called Anthem?
Yeah.
And so is that coming for the S as well?
Yeah, that'll have to run on everything.
Okay.
That'll be on PlayStation and PC as well.
Okay. That looked great.
Okay.
Yeah.
It looked amazing.
Yeah, it's
amazing.
I hope that comes together. BioWare could probably use one right about now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like that's been a weird one. Consoles, you're used to this kind of standard cycle of just like, we put one out, we put out a slim version of it, we put out
the next one.
Yeah, and then here's the next one, and now it feels really disrupted. Does that excite you, the idea of like, hey, we've got more power to work with on this stuff, or does it become like, oh, this is maybe a little more confusing because now instead of developing for one spec, it's like now it's like 4 just for consoles.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of think of it like, like all the console games that we've made, there've always been 2 systems. There's always been an Xbox and a PlayStation 2, right? And a PlayStation 3 and an Xbox 360 and then an Xbox One and a PlayStation 4. And there's we've always developed in parallel, and some do some things, different than others.
Right.
So we do things differently, and so to do an Xbox One X version and an Xbox One S version.
Yeah.
We think of it kind of like in the same way of it's almost like a different platform.
Sure.
And with different advantages and strengths and stuff like that. But
when you go and when the team is creating just like raw assets, like are they creating them at a high enough resolution that you can kind of scale down to whatever? So like, hey, they're authoring at 4K and working backwards from that? Or,
yeah. There's always like the crazy or the version that is in Maya. Right. And it's like, and it has 1 billion polygons.
Looks amazing.
Yeah, exactly.
Half a frame a second.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it's not zero work. Like to do an Xbox One X version, that I'm guessing we would want to make it look as good as it can look. Yeah. It's not zero work to go from that to from the S to the so it's probably going to be some, and same thing with PlayStation Pro. When you think about it, it's almost like there's almost like 4 versions that you could be releasing, and it's not. It doesn't come free. Especially if you want the Pro and the X.
And if you want to go all over the place, then all of a sudden it's like, okay, well, now you're going to make a Switch version that is like a completely different power band. And then the PC, which is all over the place.
Yeah, you're not going to ignore PC. And it is disruptive, like you said, but I don't usually disruptive kind of makes me think of good things, but I'm not sure yet that this is like it seemed everybody was like, oh, the industry's going to move to this model of like iterative console updates, and I don't really see that it's necessary yet. Like I haven't really. I mean, I own a PS4 Pro because I will buy anything, but like I don't think that like
you're a nightmare person like me. You just buy everything. Like,
right.
All right, well, here we go.
And I appreciate it. It's fun. It's nice that some games run a little better and it's smoother. But like at the same time, like I don't feel like it's made such a huge impact that like it's a must-have thing for everyone. And if anything, it's just kind of made things a little more confusing for like the average consumer.
Yeah. It's for me, it's been confusing because it's not obvious which games use which features.
Sure.
And I bought a 4K TV relatively recently, and everything looks really good on it. So, the one nice thing I do get is it will pop up and say HDR. So like when I launch Injustice, it'll pop up and say HDR, and I'll be like,
so it's using it.
And I'll go like, this game is dark. But like in a way that you're like, like this, the brights pop in a way that they don't. And it's like it's.
I didn't, you know, and I was watching, you know, you interviewing Phil Spencer, and I think you asked him, you know, well, what is the market for the X, you know, and you know, I always thought it was, you know, the guy who's got, you know, disposable income, he's got a 4K TV, wants to see, you know, what is, but, you know, he was saying that they were expecting to sell more S's than X's, right?
Definitely, yeah. And that's what Sony's definitely seen with the PS4. Like
What was your understanding of what that market?
Well, I want to say, I think Sony got out there and said that, I think, was it like 20% of PS4 sales are pros? Okay. And that they were ahead of where they thought they would be with that number. So, you know, I think their estimates were just like, hey, we're putting this out here. We have no idea how it'll do. Right. And maybe it's a little more established with Xbox, but still, you know, that's I would expect the number to probably be around that same.
VR works better on the Pro?
It's more power, so theoretically, if they're coding for it, then you can get more out of it there. And honestly, I've had pretty bad experiences with PlayStation VR.
Have you?
On both systems, just in terms of how it works and tracks and all that sort of stuff. So, so that stuff's been a little rough.
Yeah,
a little rough.
Well, I was just curious as to, like, you know, just again, it's almost like there's 4 consoles out there.
Yeah.
Almost, you know, to some extent.
Yeah, I'm really curious just to see how developers support it, because that was something like when the Pro came out, Sony had kind of got out there and said like, oh, well, you know, or I guess maybe Sony didn't say it, but the documentation we got a hold of implied that every game will have some kind of thing for PlayStation Pro. You know, there'll be something in there for those owners. And then that lasted for a while around launch, and then you started seeing games start to ship that just kind of didn't have it, had gotten it waived or whatever. And at some point, you know, you're reading patch notes on the PS4 and going like, does this say anything about HDR or 4K? Like, what am I don't even know what I'm looking for. I wish that stuff was a lot more explicit.
I can exclusively reveal that Undertale will look exactly the same on a PS4 Pro as it does on a PS4.
Fantastic.
No changes at all.
But will it, I mean, is it going to load faster? Like, what are we talking about?
I actually don't know.
Although you said that very confidently.
Well, because if you have seen the game, it looks like it's from like the Super Nintendo era, so it's not. You know. But no, but I mean, you know, the thing about the PS4 Pro and, you know, these step up consoles is like, really, if you're, you know, you look at the audience and like you said 20% or whatever, you really just need to focus on make sure the game looks good on the core console, and then if you even have a little bit extra on the next thing, that's probably fine. And if you don't, that's also probably fine, because like people mostly buy that just so they can, you know, it'll look better on their TV, they can have the HDR and everything, but like it's not like you have to go cram more polygons onto your characters or whatever else to get the most out of it, because the return is probably not going to be that much at this stage.
Right. It seems like the games that really set out to take advantage of that stuff look better. You know, games like Horizon on a nice 4K TV on a Pro. It looks better. You know, is it the hundreds of dollars better for if you're already a PS4 owner to go out and buy a whole new system for it? Like, that's a muddier question that then gets into like, well, did you already spend the money on a 4K TV? Because if you're already that far in, let's just sunk cost it and just, sure, let's go get all this stuff.
Like guys who bought, you know, 3D TVs and all of a sudden a 3D game comes out. Well, I gotta buy it because I paid for this 3D TV.
Exactly. Like you're already there. With Mortal Kombat, I was thinking about this recently when Injustice came out, that Mortal Kombat's one of the few franchises, maybe it's like one of the only like long-running fighting game franchises I can think of where like the gameplay has completely changed.
A few times.
Yeah, like one, you know, you had 1 to 3, and then 4 kind of was in there,
its own thing,
was starting to become its own thing. And then the PS2 and Xbox era was, you know, it was a weapon fighter, like a completely different set of games. And then MK versus DC kind of got halfway back to the old style.
All of a sudden you can duck easy again.
And then 9 kind of got to kind of where we are now, you know, with both Injustice games and 9 and X. Do you feel, I mean, obviously, like, things have changed so much with the fighting game scene, and, you know, like, your games have a feel to them. You know, whether it's back to block or a block button, you know, whether it's DC or whether it's MK.
It's the super juggling and all the crazy stuff like that.
It's meter burns, it's all this other stuff. Do you think you could get away with a full overhaul of everything, or is it now like
absolutely? And not only do I think we can get away with it, but, you know, at some point we need to. You know, and that's been, I guess, yeah, all of our philosophies for quite a while. I think, you know, I've seen games do a number of sequels where it's basically just, you know, the latest graphics engine and the prettiest things on these iconic, great, but the same.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like at some point people go, yeah, this looks great and it's a lot of fun, but then they're and it might not even be a conscious thing, but they're like, yeah, I'm done with this. That was really cool, and that was a little less time than the last one.
Yes.
And it's this unspoken thing, and in retrospect they look back and they go, you know, yeah, I haven't really been into that series that much, you know. We at least, you know, no game's perfect. I don't think by any means we're, you know, but at least it's occasionally we'll go, you know, it's time to wipe the slate clean. You know, we call it a reboot the fighting engine, and let's do something just so people can go, oh, this feels different. I feel like I need to learn something, and I need to get good at this, as opposed to kind of play the same thing over and over.
Yeah, I imagine that even that must be a really wild balance. Because I just, you know, for me it was like when Scorpion's Spear went from back to back forward. I was like, you broke the game. What is this? You know,
exactly.
if Ryu can't do a low medium kick into a fireball, like that's not a Street Fighter. You know, it's like I'm sure everyone has their one thing. That they look
exactly.
at. So yeah, that's I imagine that would be like walking a tightrope.
Yeah, and it's you know, some people it's like, oh, you know, you ruined it and stuff. But those are the same people who are still with us, you know, and like you know, MK9, MKX are, you know, the two best-selling of all the Mortal Kombat games. And not that like sales is the defining thing by any means, but you know, they're people got engaged with them, you know. We added these crazy features. The story mode is like, you know, who does that? Who does this 2-hour, you know, cinematic thing?
But also, like coming especially off of the Injustice 2 story mode, and seeing, you know, what something like a Street Fighter does, or even something like Tekken, like it really feels like those games should be doing that. It's the difference between like, are you trying to just appeal to the Evo crowd, or are you making something that anyone can enjoy?
Yeah. If you appeal only to the Evo crowd, you're going to sell, you know, 200,000 units. You know, and those people are amazing, and those people are in a lot of ways your evangelists.
Totally.
Those are the guys who are the loudest online and stuff like that. But the masses, you know, like you know, everybody goes through our story mode when they first buy the game. They plow through the whole thing. It's amazing the stat of it, and you know, we purposely don't make it really hard. We play it so people can enjoy their experience, and that's a conscious effort of. Some people are afraid to go online and just get their ass kicked. You know, it's like that's the experience they have, and so you know these are kind of conscious decisions that we make to make what is in a lot of people's eyes a niche category of game more appealing to
I imagine that's something that, you know, I mean, well, I was going to say that with, you know, DC characters, that's something that's probably even more important just because of how mainstream they are. But at this point, I mean, it's not like Mortal Kombat has not reached a certain level of mainstream. You know, there are a lot of tattoos out there. That's what I'm saying.
There are. Somebody showed me one today. You know, he had a big scorpion spear on his arm and stuff like that, and I was like, you know, you're going to be 70 years old with that at some point.
and was he just like, yeah, that's right, I am.
Exactly. Yeah. But it's you know, the fact that people are putting tattoos and stuff on it is it's weird. It's you know, I to this day, every once in a while, I'll just go, you know, oh, they made a movie of that game. You know, they made 2 movies of that game, and it's just still to this day, it's just I go, wow, what's I doing during that? You know, probably working on one of the versions of the game.
There's a lot of talk about another movie coming at some point.
I've seen a lot of stuff too. I'm certainly. Definitely not at liberty to say, but I personally would love to see a new one by like a really good young director. You know, that guy, his name is Kevin Tentrone. He did like this Mortal Kombat, you know, Rebirth, you know, that YouTube thing. And you know, when I met him, he showed me a picture. He's like, "Oh, you got to see this," and it's like him, like 5 years old in a Sub-Zero costume. You know, like this. I was like, wow, we're a generation apart. we're literally a generation apart.
Yeah,
exactly.
Right,
and
yeah.
he was that age, and I was in my 20s. You know, so it's just crazy how long this thing has been going on.
Yeah.
So,
Well, that's I would love to see at least another 25 years out of it.
Oh God, yeah.
And then you can make the grid too.
That's right.
Yeah, we'll get another couple decades out of it, and then they'll let you do it.
It's funny. We have the grid in our cafeteria, you know, and it's funny. Everybody, you know, like you look at the graphics now, you're just like, wow, you know. But it's, you know, like it's still at that, you know, California Extreme thing.
Right. They bring it every year.
I go to Galloping Ghost Arcade. It's like this. I think it's the biggest arcade in the world now.
And
they have, you know,
they've got that Primal Rage 2 machine there.
Yeah, they have all these games that are, you know, like weren't finished and stuff, and somehow they got the ROMs, and it's awesome. Yeah.
Cool. Well, Ed, John, I'm gonna let you guys go. Thanks so much for coming by.
Of course,
it's always a pleasure to talk to you.
Yeah, it's part of E3 for me now.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Well, we're gonna take a break and get some more guests on here and keep the evening going. Stay tuned, everybody. We'll be right back.